Hi, welcome everyone to Blinkit Pitstop, our series where we talk to founders of emerging brands and tell you how they built their brand from nothing to where they are today. Today we have WickedGüd, Wicked Taste Good Ingredients. That's their tagline. It's going to be a series of products. Right now they have instant noodles, pastas, etc. built on the promise of having great ingredients, not maida. And today we have Bhuman, Soumalya and Monish from WickedGüd. Welcome.
Thank you for having us.
So tell us how WickedGüd came to be.
Well, it's a well-known fact that you must consume 1 gram of protein for every 1 gram of body weight that you have.
Okay.
Unfortunately, more than 70% of the country does not end up consuming this.
Okay.
Basically, our food is screwed. All the empty calories, the artificial ingredients, in fact, ingredients that one can't even pronounce, was filled with the consumer food segment. And when I decided that when I figured that there are many others who are looking for these changes, we thought we should change it. Gen Z consumers dictate consumer behavior at home, which is why, unfortunately, mothers have started to domesticate junk. If you look at FMCG majors, they're displaying tokenism. You look at a pack of oats noodles, it says oats, but it's more maida and less oats.
Okay.
So I think these were the things that prompted us to sort of think differently, to come up with something where taste, price and health are all at the sort of a confluence, because gone are the days where tasty products were not healthy and healthy products were not tasty. The two started to coexist a couple of years back, but at a price being the price.
But Bhuman, I want to take us a little bit back, because I think now sounds like that's your brand story. But you were the founder of TGL.
Yeah.
And you had sold this company, or partially sold the company, and then you were sort of looking for your next venture. Is that right?
Relinquished control to strategic investors,
Okay.
partially exited from TGL. TGL was more in the premium tea and coffee space. This time wanted to do a little more mass premium, little more wider audience creation.
Yeah.
So we were looking at what categories one can possibly enter in the FMCG consumer space. That's what I understand best.
Got it.
Bit of my background, I'm an engineer from BITS, turned MBA from INSEAD, turned consultant with BCG in their London office.
Amazing.
Came back to India and started TGL, and now WickedGüd. So I think I understand consumer the best as an individual. So thought something in a space which is large enough where there is option and opportunity to disrupt it because of all the unjunk or all the junk out there is something that we were really passionate about.
So paint me a day after you have left TGL and you're still in that blank space. You haven't thought about WickedGüd. Like, what are some thoughts, and is that what you were thinking, that I need something that could be a big market,
right,
something that I could target? Is that what you were thinking? What are some other ideas you were exploring?
It was very data driven. So
Okay.
look,
BCG.
Yeah, consultant in you ends up being Excel most of the time.
Yeah.
But I think we looked at market size.
Okay.
We looked at growth rate of particular segments, and then we also looked at AOV, because the idea was to build a D2C brand. Now,
Okay.
if I'm selling something for 100 rupees on my website, I probably will have to raise a shitload of money, then only I can sustain. So we had to even look at a product which is at least a 400, 500 rupee AOV,
Got
so
it.
that we can sustain for a longer while.
I like that. Don't start with passion, start with AOV and then figure out. And at that point, did you know each other from before WickedGüd?
No, go ahead.
No, we didn't actually. We, I think Bhuman and we knew of each other.
Okay.
Because we were connected on LinkedIn. And I think that worked in our favor, because we already knew of each other. And when he was looking for somebody, I think he is the better narrator of the story because he initiated it. But that is how we met.
Okay.
The marriage was made at LinkedIn. And I think Bhuman and Monish's story is also very different. That was a separate matchmaker.
Monish, how did you get matched with Bhuman?
So, true-hearted D2C, right? Because I think he got to know about me through a common friend.
Okay.
I used to go for certain lectures, and one of the colleges had a group in which I was added, and his message kind of floated in there.
Can you tell us a little bit about your background for our audience?
Yes. I am a literature student. Turned into a marketer through consumer behavior. So I have a master's in consumer behavior. did a lot of advertising roles. Started as a writer, then did some bit of quintessential direction, okay, and then became a planner.
So this is the brand is your creation, WickedGüd?
It is never my creation.
Okay.
At WickedGud, everything is ours, right?
Okay.
So we have always spent a lot of time, we've spent a lot of time fighting, discussing, debating, and then ended up being where we are.
Got
so
it.
yes,
Got it.
but yeah, my background is brand building.
Got it. And then, so you guys met through another friend.
Yes. So there was a common friend through which Bhuman got in touch with me. I got in touch with Bhuman because I got a message from that group saying that, there's something here. Okay. And then I think 2-3 interactive points finally made us talk to each other. Okay. And then I think the rest is all like history, right?
So you're brainstorming over this AOV and Excel sheet together about what to start. At this point, you were already co-founders, or it was just you?
It was just me.
Okay.
I was basically also trying to look at, other than the quant part of it, also try and understand what are the drivers of consumption in this country. Right? It's very important to understand, and obviously had a lot of learnings from my earlier startup. So I think primarily 2 things are the main drivers of consumption in food and beverage: price and taste.
Okay.
I mean, health is coming up as a third consumption driver, but it's still, I would say, nascent, not mature enough. So anything that is not as tasty or tastier than your mass brands or your favorite brands, you will not scale beyond a point because there won't be repeat.
Got it.
Health is more like a discovery. Oh, this is tasty, and by the way, it is also healthy. That's the kind of zone that we wanted to be in. So when you go from an elimination methodology, having the world of categories in front of you, remove market size beyond a certain threshold, remove, or rather below a certain threshold, remove growth rate below a certain threshold, remove where you can't match this taste and price conundrum. And lastly, I think look at categories that are traditionally junk.
Okay.
Because if you create something that is unjunked in those categories, I think you've hit the sweet spot.
Okay.
Because let's say a category like noodles and pasta,
Yeah.
health in such categories is a myth. Like, who can ever think a pasta and a noodle is healthy? Probably very few. And that's exactly what we wanted to use and do with this brand. And obviously, other than the 3 of us, there's an entire team now which has really put in a lot of effort in making us where we are today. And there are a set of advisors. So none of us are food scientists, unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know. But none of us are food scientists. So we needed someone, who could curate R&D for existing and future categories. So that's when we got Rinka Banerjee on board. Rinka spent about 18 years with Unilever. Her latest role was the R&D director for the South Asia foods business. So I couldn't think of anyone better than her to come on board as an advisor and help us, with the R&D initiatives across categories. I think the second person is definitely Ashwini Deshpande, the founder at Elephant Design. So obviously, in addition to Monish and his team's efforts, we also had the nomenclature and the visual identity of the entire brand created with the help of Ashwini and her team. And she's also now an investor. So
great. So once you had this idea, that's when you started looking for co-founders. And the idea sounded like it was less a specific category. It was something that was junk food that could be high in demand.
The mission was to unjunk India one kitchen at a time.
One thing I think is very interesting about your company especially, a lot of companies, they say we want to be in this category.
Yeah.
We want to be in beverages.
Yeah.
You're saying, oh no, we are about this brand promise of Wicked plus Good.
Correct.
And then within that, we'll do pastas, we'll do instant noodles, and I've heard you on your other interviews that there's a whole line of products.
Absolutely.
But that's a very different thinking from brands choosing a category.
Correct.
How did you choose that versus a particular category? And is that hard?
Well, it is hard. I don't think any brand should focus on 5 or 6 categories from day zero.
Right.
A, because it requires a lot of capital, and B, I think the focus is lost. I think it's all about, that razor sharp focus initially to scale up in a certain category and then keep adding more categories because you have the distribution set up. But initially, it is important to have your either online or offline or institution distribution setting up is very important. So I think we first spent the time identifying which categories we want to disrupt, which is where that elimination methodology worked. I mean, we want to change the world, but there are limitations from an ingredient perspective, from a manufacturing perspective. For example, we're looking at ketchup, but we couldn't, because from a manufacturing perspective, it's very hard to make preservative-free, sugar-free ketchup. So that sort of went away, and we didn't want to do capex because we're an asset-light company. So all of these elimination methodologies, left with about 6 or 7. Definitely will do all of them in the future of this company. But started with noodles because it was large enough.
Okay.
And there were very, very few players in the market that had challenged one of these so-called legacy brands.
Got it.
Which basically is nothing but junk. It's oil, maida, and chemicals.
Not only in India, in fact, globally, I think pasta, there are still people who try to make it healthier. But in terms of instant noodles, the kind of product promise that we come with, I don't think anybody has done that in India. I don't think there'll be very few people who would have done it in the world as well. Because it's not just unjunking the cake, it's unjunking the seasoning, while also trying to ensure that your taste is at least 90% there. Like, as per your incumbent brands, basically. So that was a big challenge. It took us a lot of time. We thought we will launch this, we were supposed to launch it in December 2021. We eventually launched it in October 2022. That is the amount of R&D time that it...
the instant noodles?
Yes. So yeah, we were never sure, we wanted to be absolutely sure that the product that goes out into the market is actually palatable.
I want to talk about reality shows, because you've not been on just one, but 2 reality shows. Let's talk about the obvious one first. How was it like? I mean, why did you first choose to go on Shark Tank at all? And then how was that experience?
Reality shows always were one of our key focus points. Primarily, yes, as a startup, we always want funding, always would want to be in that space where who's who of the D2C business, of the new age brands, of the people who are building that sort of a brand, to be at the helm of that conversation. And secondly, to capitalize on the awareness index. Right? Because when you're on a reality show today, we know there are enough and more data points which kind of reflect that IPL and Shark Tank have got the similar viewership, right? Because that's the power of reality shows, right? People like drama.
Primetime television, right?
We wanted to bring forward our story to the rest of the country and not confine ourselves to only targeted consumers on Instagram.
I think also adding to that, we've already had a shark on our cap table, Aman, right? He had invested in our pre-seed round. So we've seen, how helpful it does get when having some of them. So why not have more with a network effect? It'll only help the brand. And of course, the main reason is primetime television. I don't think can get better than that for any young brand of our size.
Our team found that was not the only show that you were on. There was another show called Horses Stable that you also participated on.
So I think Aarti Gupta is also on a cap table, who's one of the horses at Horses Stable. So she, put us in touch with this show and, how it is aired, where it is aired, what are the benefits of being on it.
Okay.
And again, at that time, we hadn't raised, I think we'd raised 1 round, if I recollect. And so we were looking to raise, and there was an opportunity for us to again get some amount of primetime television with the right amount of people for investment. And thankfully, we did end up getting a deal on that show. But because it was a secondary, none of our existing investors wanted to sell.
Got it.
So that never culminated into a proper deal. But yeah, we did get from Mohit Gulati there.
Very cool.
And I think just to add, right, overall as a brand, one of our major focus points is to create excitement.
Right.
Forget the functional attributes, what you have, what you don't have, ingredients, performance marketing, brand marketing. Out there, the consumer is looking for excitement. They're not coming to Instagram to purchase something. They're coming to Instagram to feel relaxed, to feel excited, to have fun, to smile, to like, to comment, to share, to start a conversation with a friend. So I think that's the real challenge of a brand, right? How can you be part of that excitement? So that's, I think that was the core, and that's why we do whatever we do, right? Throughout the chain.
I would love to know about a campaign that maybe worked exceedingly well.
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
a campaign that bombed completely.
See again, that's a very interesting question, right? Because today again in the world of social media advertising, okay, the lifespan of a great piece is probably 2 days. because you become a viral and then you fade out. Right, that's the world we have come to, right? In the olden times, there used to be this, like, I can take names of multiple ads. Today, what was the last ad that you remember which was trending on Twitter? You have to think.
Yes.
Right, that's where we have reached, right? So today brand building has become even more challenging, right? It was always challenging. Today it has become even more challenging because your lifespan is like on a ticking time bomb, right? So as a brand, we have done multiple campaigns. I think one of the most successful campaigns which we did was the April Fool's campaign. Okay, don't fool for it. All right, but we just said ki today is not the only.
You mean?
No, not the
last year.
Last year, right?
Even this year was interesting. We'll come to that later.
Yeah. So how we kind of envisaged the entire thing was, today is not the only day that you're getting fooled. Right? Big brands fool you throughout the year. Right, so don't fool for it, right? And what was beautiful for us was that we built a community not at a consumer level, but we built a community at the real helm of D2C brands. So more than 20 brands in the clean label space, they came together. Okay, category agnostic, and we stood together for that campaign. So if you see the campaign, okay, which is there online, you will see all these 20 brands coming in, standing up for the cause, and like saying that, today is not the only day we are getting fooled, so don't fool for it, and so on.
And these are different founders.
Yes.
On video saying that.
Absolutely, right? So that was a campaign which really did wonders for us.
And how did that translate to sales or?
Again, that's a trick question, right? Like, because see, as a brand, okay, there are victories which are sometimes visible.
Okay.
Most of the times they aren't, right? See, performance marketing is very, very well structured, right? So when you say sales, I mean that, okay, there's going to be a tangible goal at the end of this process which I'm going to achieve, right? But when you do brand advertising, the pyramid is not so sharp, right? You either like it or you don't. If you like it, what do? Probably just like it. Probably just share it with a friend, not even like it. How do I tangibilize that? How do I measure that, right? So a great campaign from a brand parlance is always awareness, or probably a prestige or a love that you get, which you necessarily cannot measure.
Got it.
Right. I think also it depends on the journey of the brand, right? Outcome is the sight. The path to the outcome is the insight. When we shot that April Fool's, that we were probably 5 months old then, 4 months old, so hardly anyone knew us. So the end goal was not to get sales out of it, but awareness out of it.
Got it.
That here is a brand that exists and does ABC. And thankful to us, because it went viral, it got so many eyeballs that Brand Equity
picked it up, yeah.
Many agency reporter, many others picked it up just, on their own organically. So that really helped us with some amount of eyeballs, whatever it is. It ended up with something more than where we were earlier.
Got it.
I think that's very important in early days. Now, if I were to do a campaign, obviously there would be a lot more sales and efficacy that I can see, quantifiable, rather than probably a year or 2 years ago.
Got it.
Coming to this year's campaign,
I think from that don't fool for it, okay, we did not change the origin point, but we thought of why not create something which is imaginary, right? Because magic as a brand ethos, okay, is very important to us.
Magic as a brand ethos.
Yes, because when we thought of WickedGud, we actually thought that वो तो कभी exist ही नहीं करता है. Right? How can you make pastas out of ingredients which are like fuddy-duddy, dal, chawal, chana? तुम मजाक कर रहा. Right? We always give this example, right? There's this magician who comes into a room, shows you an Indian thali, dal, chawal, chana, roti, sab kuch hai, puts a red cloth on it, okay, does abracadabra, and when he removes the red cloth, okay, you have a bowl of pasta or you have a bowl of noodle. That's exactly what the brand is. That's exactly what we're doing, right? That's the narrative of ingredients. That's the promise that we bring about, right? So I think when magic was the real word, magic is also unimaginable, right? You do not imagine magic unless and until you see it happening. So we thought, okay, we will create 2 products, okay, which are going to absolutely take you by the bonkers, okay, where we decided to make this capsule a protein palooza. We called it the protein palooza, which was like,
I think I saw that on your Instagram, yeah.
So you're like 1 pill a month and it takes care of your protein needs throughout the month, okay, and 12 pills a year, bingo, you're done.
I was fooled for a second. I was going to ask you that you do noodles and now you're doing, thankfully I checked.
Just on our way here in the cab, I got a message from one of our customers. Hey, I read your new post, the protein pill. how much protein per pill? Where can I buy it?
Yeah.
And that's when I told them
Customer
that.
support has to explain to them.
Imagine.
Not just this, like, for the last 2-3 days, we've gotten a lot of queries for it. Like, people wanting to understand this product a little more and probably want to purchase it.
Even
Not
for
from a
exports.
Yes, not only from a consumer standpoint, even from a distribution and a export standpoint.
Well, maybe it's time to turn this April Fool's
Imagine.
product since your brand promise is broad.
Yeah.
So as a brand, like you asked, the premise of this entire discussion was the fact that what campaigns did good for you and what campaigns didn't, right? I think this campaign would have done wonders if we were not a D2C or a startup brand and we were a mass level brand, and the awareness was much more higher.
Got it.
Right. So how do you measure, right? Is my measurement just interactivity and engagement, or is my measurement always a tangible sales, right? As a brand builder, okay, you always tend to be in this dilemma as to what are you really solving, right? Because demand generation is always macro. It is lesser. It is very blurry at the edges, right? Demand fulfillment is very sharp, very articulate. It's like big, bold, right? Like a highlighted thing, right? So like, this is my demand and this is how I fulfilled, period, finish, right? How do you tangibilize demand generation?
You make a great point, Monish. I think demand generation, that's an art. It's not a science,
Yeah,
right?
It's an art.
And it needs someone like you to put your foot down and say, listen, I can't tangibilize it for you, but you will know it's working 5 months down, 6 months down, right? Once the customer starts building recall for your brand.
I think the efficacy of any campaign also has got a lot of dependence on your distribution. When we did the Don't Fool for It campaign last year, at that time we were not very well penetrated. Correct. Right? You were probably present in 3 to 4 or maybe 5 key marketplaces. You're not actually reaching out to each and every customer. Our first sale was on our website.
Okay.
And that is if you do not sell on your website first, then you can't be considered D2C. But yes, website and Amazon were the first 2 channels where we started from. And I think that's a no-brainer, right? That's where everybody would want to also start from. If you're not starting from retail. Now that's a completely different story altogether. And then that's not direct to customer. So yes, that is where we started from. We also started from Flipkart. First 2-3 months we were in these spaces. We were, of course, understanding the market, understanding the consumers, understanding feedback, understanding marketplaces, understanding price points, a lot of things. I think the first 5 to 6 months was purely us trying to understand our consumers. What do they like? What do they dislike? What is working for us? We were also on Big Basket. Blinkit was our first quick commerce partner actually. We started in March of last year.
Okay.
And that was also early days for Blinkit actually. And
Yes.
And for the price point that we were at, I think Blinkit did take a punt. And we are grateful for that. And I think that trust that the platform has had with the brand today is giving both of us the benefits.
But how does quick commerce as a new distribution model change the game for you?
Completely, I would say. I think Monish and Bhuman have done a brilliant job explaining who our customer is. And then when you understand who our customer is, then you realize in our P1 markets, our customers, actually their entire buying behavior has changed. And if I was not one of the founding members of the team, I would probably be a customer of WickedGüd, because that is me as a target audience. I am a target audience for my own brand. Where do I shop today? I shop on Blinkit. I shop through quick commerce because I see how habits have changed myself, right? There was a time that you always felt that no, yes, Blinkit is all right, these platforms are great, but you still do not get the best deals here, right? It is good for if you need it immediately and you do not need to, you get it in some other marketplace. But even that paradigm has changed completely. Now today, in terms of pricing, in terms of offering, in terms of everything, I think quick commerce is almost at par with broad marketplaces. Yeah, you might not get 300 products in the same category, but you definitely get 30, and I think those 30 are good enough for most of the P1 customers and definitely for us. So we found out that our target audience is actually in shopping in these platforms. So when we pivoted from marketplaces, and we still are very much present in marketplaces. And it's not that they're doing poorly; they're doing pretty well. But we actually saw instant gratification in quick commerce. Something that took a little more time in marketplaces. What we also realized after one of our after Shark Tank happened, right? That is the first time that we were on primetime television. That is the first time there was so much top of funnel that was built, so much demand that was generated, and it went beyond our core P1 audience. It went to our P2 markets, P3
that is
markets.
what I was going to ask you, because when you are on Shark Tank and you're reaching a mass audience, they are not always shopping on these marketplaces or quick commerce, right? So you need a very different distribution strategy based on the kind of demand you've generated.
Coming to that, yes. So I think over the course of last 1.5 years, we've been able to break into each and every medium of distribution, at least in the online space, that we can be at. Any and every relevant, from the largest to probably the smallest. I think we are present on all the quick commerce platforms. We're also present in smaller, more focused platforms like YouCare Lifestyle and all of those things. But what is necessary and what we understood is ultimately mass India at some point still shops from Amazon, right? Because there is limitation, even something that quick commerce even has today. Quick commerce is still in all P1 cities,
but some P2 can only be in small catchment areas.
You are in small catchment areas, and the moment there is that kind of top of funnel that happens for you, that kind of awareness, you suddenly see people from every nook and cranny trying to see who you are, what are you of, and I would like to buy from you. So we suddenly saw marketplaces take off at that time. But again, you come back and see where your core audience still lies. Maybe they are not my core audience, but they are audience nonetheless. We said something very pertinent, about unjunking India one kitchen at a time. Eventually, everybody is going to be my audience. Come on, it's noodles we are talking about, right? This is something that we also take pride in building categories where you do not need to build a habit for somebody to starts eating it for the first time. It's like we are not going and saying that, wow, this noodles, this is long, this is slurpy, this is how you eat it. No, everybody knows how to eat noodles. We are just telling you, you've been eating noodles, here are healthier noodles with almost the same taste palette for you. This makes you mindful, right, about what you're putting into your body. So eventually we want to cater to the entire length and breadth of the country, which is where today, even retail is very, very important. I mean, it's very important to be omni-channel. There are everybody, I think everybody in this room or even outside this room, everybody has different ways to shop. So it's important to be in each and every channel. I think that is where our journey is taking us. Very soon we'll also be in retail.
What's going to be the big move that will beat Maggi?
But see, again, we're not competing with Maggi per se, right?
Okay.
We are a healthy, better for you instant noodle brand, yes. But we don't have aspirations of becoming a 4,000 crore noodle company.
Okay.
We want to build probably a 5,000 crore revenue brand across categories. Even if we were to get 2 or 3% of the total instant noodle category, we're sort of satisfied with that. So I don't look at us competing with the likes of a Maggi at all. It's about coexisting and catering to audiences that have a need for your product.
Basically find that niche across many categories.
Correct.
Which
in the noodle space,
between the wicked into good.
Absolutely, right? Or have the two coexist.
What is the next big product line that
I'll just add to whatever you just said, right? I don't think we are also looking at niche, because health, as Monish was also putting very well, has now gone beyond niche. You have more than 100 million customers, 100 million customers in the country who are seeking health. You have noodles, but that taste conundrum is always a filter and that glass ceiling that you need to break. I think that is something that needs to be broken. That is a challenge. After doing that, even if we are able to take about 3% of the category, we'll not be sad whether we'll be happy or not. Ambitions always grow.
So you didn't know each other before you started this business, and when you said earlier you are poles apart. What are some things that you guys fight about, and how do you navigate those fights?
Whenever we think of a particular concept, and that concept could be marketing, that concept could be anything in the whole spectrum of WickedGüd, right? It's just that three of us look at it very differently. Okay, and if we are convinced, that means that three different worlds are convinced, right? So it becomes a strength for the brand, right? But yeah, I think under the hood,
That's a very interesting way of framing it. You're saying people who are friends probably expect to hear the same things. When you know that you're going to get very different perspectives, you come into the conversation expecting that.
like
It's the best interest of the company, right? Because if there are, and we keep saying this internally, right? A mistake is a mistake when made twice. Otherwise, it's a learning.
Correct.
So it's very important to learn from each other's backgrounds, from each other's experiences. What Monish brings on the table, what Soumalya brings on the table, what we bring on the table is different. We've been through so many things at so many times, which also reflects in our entire journey. What product we started with, what products we are selling today is a huge difference. We've pivoted not only from a product perspective, but also a channel perspective. Also, so there were different North Star metrics when we started initially. Initially, it was like, okay, here's the product, try to sell it as many platforms as possible. So you're only looking at it from a platform perspective. Once we got onto X platforms, then we're like, okay, now that we've got onto platforms, let's look at pin codes. Let the North Star metric be X pin codes we want to cater to. So then that opens up the funnel within the same platform. How do we get to more pin codes? Once that had happened, then we'll, okay, now let's see whether this product is working. See, retail is the end goal because that's where 80% of groceries sold in India.
Or more.
Probably even more in certain categories.
Yeah.
Noodles, Maggi, for example, Nestle, I think 95% of it is offline. So that is the end goal. Whether we like it or not, we'll have to do it if we want to become a big brand. So before we do that, it's very important for two things. One, to ensure and know exactly what product is going to be sold to what consumer in what geography. Some amount of PMF in by customer, by geography. Because otherwise, retail, the pace at which you can launch, the same or maybe double pace, it'll all come back as RTV. It's all working capital. Money gets stuck, inventory gets stuck,
Right.
then becomes a little messy. So first step was to identify the product. We started with a pasta that was completely gluten-free, made with the goodness of chickpea, brown rice and red lentil. There was no wheat in it, zero.
Dal chawal chana.
Dal chawal chana. I mean, as basic as, you can...
nobody else.
I learned from a birdie that you hate rajma and chole.
Oh God.
How did they become special hero ingredients for your products?
He loves it only in form of a pasta.
There you go. That makes sense.
Yeah, well, I've never had it while I was growing up as much. So never developed a liking to it. Not that I had pasta either, but I think the best of two worlds, right? So I mean, that's the product we started with, and today that's probably less than 3% or 5% of my top line. So we pivoted because we figured that yes, there is an audience that wants such products, but it is, niche is in what Soumalya said. So then we wanted to cater to a wider audience, which is where we put in some whole wheat. See, we are very ingredient agnostic.
Got it.
The end goal is to identify certain things, let's say sugar, oil, fat, protein, fiber, macronutrient profile has to be in the money. So whether it happens with A ingredient in B category or C ingredient in D category, we're completely open. There are startups that focus only on millets. There are startups that focus only on oats. We're completely agnostic. In a certain...
We have certain devils, of course. There are certain villains that we are, of course, trying to badger. And those villains will never enter our, ingredient list.
But apart from that, who is one of the villains?
Of course, maida is there.
Besides maida.
Oil is there.
Right.
We want to stay away from oil as much as possible. We want to stay away from processed sugar as much as possible.
Just correct that, refined oil.
Refined oil, yeah.
Palm oil.
Yeah, palm oil. So, of course, those things we want to stay away from.
I have two last questions for you. All of you are seasoned operators in the FMCG space, right? You've run a company before. You were at Rosta. You were a marketing whiz. What is some place where you have to pull back the expertise? Where your expertise might lead you astray, and it's a blind spot rather than a strength.
Every day, I think every day you walk into your office, you're nobody. You're there just for a mission, and there is no air, there is no smartness. Whether it is A, B or C, they all have to start from zero.
In fact, every learning that he spoke about has actually not come from research, but experience. Right now,
Okay,
today, not past
not from your
experience.
past
Not
experience.
past experience. The fact that whatever has not worked for us has not worked for us not because research told us it's not going to work for us. it did not work for us because it was not meant to be.
What can you tell us one thing it didn't work?
Like say for example, like the first category that we launched, he spoke about
Got
it,
it.
right? It's not that the product was not great, the product was brilliant.
Which was pasta.
Gluten-free pasta, right? Like anybody who consumes gluten-free pasta would have sworn by that product. Even today we have customers writing, why can't I find your gluten-free pasta? But how many people in the country are actually direct gluten-free customers? We underestimated, or rather we overestimated that, I would say. And we did not really think, we actually thought that people will take to it a little more. And we learned from it, right? And it's not that the product was not great. Maybe it would not have taken us to the scale that we want to go to. Maybe the mass, the mass premiumness of this, the country, they are not really relating to it. Like a person who wants, who is eating regular pasta, for him to immediately shift to gluten-free pasta is a big gulf, a big jump. But for somebody who has been eating gluten-free or has celiac intolerance as such, for that person, this was godsend. They're like, what have I been eating so far? Like, this is the pasta that I was waiting for. So, fortunately or unfortunately, it was a key learning for us. We knew that the product is great. We understood that. And we thought that maybe this is still not the product that will take us to where we want to be. So that's why those changes, right? We have changed, the current noodle recipe is probably the third recipe we have. We launched in October 22, but that is how product-centric we also are, and that is how much we are listening to customers. I think voice of customer is extremely important for us. We take feedback very positively, and we want feedback, we are hungry for feedback, because we want to give our customers only the best.
Okay, what do you want to tell customers who've never tried WickedGüd?
I think health also spooks a lot of people, right? Who are not actually really seeking health. They are very happy indulging, right?
Yes.
They're like, ठीक है, health देखा जाएगा. I'm still young, it's okay. I can take it, my metabolism is great and all of that. So what we have also tried to do is, a lot of brands try to create something healthy and then struggle to,
Right.
they go the other way around, or rather I would say we have gone the other way around. We have not tried to make something healthy and then try to make it tasty. We have taken something tasty and then tried to make it healthy. So what has that done for us is, it has not made us move away from taste, because at the end of the day, today of course in the Instagram generation, your camera eats first, then your eyes, and then then when you put it in your mouth, and that is when it tastes. But ultimately anything and everything in India is it starts and stops at taste. Apart from that, probably 0.01% of the population who does not care how the taste is, as long as I'm counting everything that I'm putting in my body.
So lead with the taste. By the way, it's healthy.
True.
Not try to sell the health.
True.
And then compromise on taste.
True.
Fantastic.
I'd say we're on a mission to unjunk India one kitchen at a time. The brand insight is wicked taste and good ingredients. So don't miss the boat, because even the boat founders have invested in it.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Thank you, Bhuman, Soumalya, Monish, for taking the time to speak with us today. Loved your story, and all the best for the journey ahead.
Likewise.
Thank you. Thank you so much.